Hello, and welcome to the 741 channel. Thank you for stopping by. Today we're going to take another look at my Seicane multimedia player here in my 2012 Toyota Corolla. Now, anybody who follows my channel regularly will know that I just installed this a couple of weeks ago. I got this unit direct from Seicane for review, and it all seems to work okay. I showed in the previous video how I installed it. I didn't really go through much of the controls yet because the radio wasn't functioning on this. And the reason the radio isn't functioning is because the kit was missing the antenna adapter for my car. So I now have the antenna adapter, and today we're going to install that in the car so that the radio will work now. So here's a look at the adapter. Now, I was able to order this right from Amazon. If you need one of these, I'll leave a link in the description below that will take you to the Amazon product page. Anyhow, you can see that on this end, there's just a standard Motorola plug, and that plugs into the back of the Seicane unit. There's also a blue pre-stripped wire. I'm not entirely sure what we're going to do with that. We'll kind of take another look at that once we get into the wiring here. And then the other end is just the plug that goes into the vehicle's wiring harness and plugs into the antenna. Okay, so at this point we need to pull the unit out of the car and expose the car's wiring. I'm not going to go through the disassembly in detail in this video. If you want to see the detailed disassembly, you can watch my previous video, which I will link to down in the description below. But for now, I'll just kind of show what I'm doing today in fast motion, and we'll pick back up once I get everything exposed and where we need to be. Okay, so as you can see, I've got the radio out of the car, I've got all the wiring out, and you may be able to see I've got my multimeter here, and I'll explain why. So as it turns out, the antenna in the 2012 Corolla is an amplified antenna, and that's what this little blue wire is for. This provides power to the antenna amplifier. So in other words, what we need to do is run this to a 12-volt source. So I don't know if you guys can see this clearly or not, but I took a look at the wiring harness that was supplied with the Seicane unit. And there was one unconnected wire. It just had a bubble over the end of the wire, so to speak, so it wouldn't short to anything. And it's got a label on it of amp-con, so I assume that means amplifier connection. So I don't have the wire stripped yet, but I've got my clip lead here on the end of the exposed wire, so I'm able to grab some metal there. And I've got my digital multimeter set. You may be able to see here that it is reading about 12 volts. Now, of course, the key is on to make sure that there's power going through the radio. So this is the wire that we're going to need to connect to our new adapter. So what I'm going to use to make the connection between the two wires is this double-ended crimp splice. The wire on the end of the new adapter, as you can see, is already stripped for us. We just have to pull this little piece off. But I will need to strip the end that's on the Seicane wiring harness. That's not a big deal. We'll just do that now. Okay, so I'll just put that on the stripped end and use my crimpers to give this a crimp. Okay, that's good. So now we'll do the same thing to the other end, except we'll just pull this piece off. Okay, so we should be all set. It's all crimped and ready to go. So now this end of the adapter, you may be able to see there's the coaxial connector for the antenna, and then the little pin for the 12-volt amplifier. And we'll make sure that's lined up correctly and plug it into the car's wiring. And then we'll take the Motorola plug on this end and plug it into the radio. You may not be able to see it because of the camera angle, but there is a receptacle in the back of the radio that this just fits into. And it's a little bit of a tight fit, it takes a little force, but it's in, so we should be good to go. So now I'll just set the radio back into place, make sure the wiring is sort of out of the way here. So now putting the radio back in, there are guides on the faceplate that go into holes in the trim that's in the car, so we want to line those up. And there's also a clip on this side of the metal bracket that's down in the dashboard. You guys can't see it because of the camera angle, but we want to kind of navigate around that. And then just push this in. It takes a little bit of force, and you can hear it'll kind of click into place. But now, before we finish with the reassembly, let's turn this on and see if we get any radio stations now. So I'll turn the key on, and the radio's powered up, as you can see. So let's turn on the radio app, which is here on the home page, and see what we get. Okay, so this is the first time that I'm using this, so I'm not exactly sure what all the controls are, but let's see if this works as a slider. Oh yeah, now we're getting some stations. Okay, I'm going to turn that down because we get some music playing, but you can see it's tuned to it, and it's even getting the RDS information. That's WHUS. That's the main radio station for the University of Connecticut, which is probably the closest station to this location. Seems to be picking it up okay. Let's try something a little bit further out just to make sure that the antenna is working okay. Okay, so here you can see I've got a radio station tuned in. This is 99.3. I think their call letters are WLZQ or something along those lines. And they are in Northampton, Massachusetts. At least that's where their studios are, I think. I don't know exactly where this transmits out of. I could have that wrong. But either way, it's in Massachusetts, and it's probably 20 to 30 miles northwest of me. And you can see that it's coming in strong enough for the RDS information to display. So that's a good sign. I think we've got the antenna working the way that it should be. Let's try one more FM station a little bit further out and see if it comes in. Okay, so here we're tuned to 107.3 WAAF. This is out of Boston, Massachusetts. I'm not sure where their transmitters are. I think they're a little bit west of Boston, which would put them 60 to 70 miles northwest of here or so. It's a little bit of a stretch. I'm able to hear the radio station just fine, but I'm not really getting the RDS information. So anyway, this one's coming in. It's listenable, but it's not at full strength. Let's switch over to AM and see what we get over there. So here's a local station. This is WHYN 560 out of Springfield, Massachusetts. Transmitters are probably 20 to 25 miles or so northwest of here. This is always a strong station at this location, and you can hear it's coming in just fine. Okay, and as you heard, that is WBZ 1030 out of Boston. And again, that's 70 to 80 miles northeast of here. And that's usually about the way that I receive it here, pretty much full strength or so, maybe a little bit less, and it sounds okay here in the car. Now here's WTIC 1080 out of Hartford, Connecticut. This is probably the closest AM station to this location, and of course, as you can hear, it's coming in just fine. Okay, so I think we've got the radio working the way that it should now. So I'm going to put everything back together here. Now, as before, I'm just going to run this through fast motion. If you want to see it in detail, you can watch that previous video that I mentioned before. That is linked down in the description below. Okay, that's pretty much going to wrap up installing the antenna adapter on the Seicane Multi-Media player in this 2012 Toyota Corolla. If you enjoyed this video or found it helpful, please give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to leave a comment or subscribe, feel free to do that as well. If you're interested in purchasing one of these Seicane Multi-Media players or the antenna adapter that I featured in this video, you can check the description below for links to each. And if you'd like to support my channel in another way, please consider visiting my Amazon store, also linked in the description below. Thanks for watching!